Today we're back. We're going to make use of these. We're actually going to turn these into motor mounts, get the motor situated where I want it, and all my angles right, and put into place. So I'm going to build motor mounts, and I'm going to build a transmission mount, and we're just going to get to work. So now that I got the front clip out of the way, I'm gonna get the motor squared up in the frame rails. Basically what I'm gonna do, take my square, make that square to the frame rail there. Aha, forgot. These frame rails aren't square. They actually come out wider at the front. Okay, so I got the timing cover off and my bar across the rails. And just to make sure, 8.5 inches on there. And we're 8.5 inches there. So the engine is actually pretty square in place, which is nice. So like as expected, the engine is actually not on enough of an angle yet, which will be fixed when I bring the front of the motor up off of the engine cross member. I want this about 3 degrees, so 3 degrees is about 3/16 of an inch. That's what we're going to work on. We're going to get this motor in the right spot. This morning was a bust. It started getting muggy, it was hot. It's still very hot. The motor is in between the frame rails where I want it. I just have to get it lifted up off of the cross member, which I think, yeah, right there's the kind of the sweet spot where it is. So I'm going to get that lifted up, and that will give me the proper angle. It also looks like I need to pull it forward. So we're gonna do that right now. I think this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be stuck with a -2 degree angle on the driveline. I got my clearances in the oil pan. As you can see, I actually did pull the motor forward a little bit. I am kind of over as far as possible onto the passenger side. The motor is still square in the chassis. This is where the motor is going to go. I think I'm going to start with building the transmission cross member, which I want to show you guys something. So as I stated in a previous video, I'm going to be using an MGW shifter for this MT82. Now that I get inside of the cab and I removed the stock shifter cover that allowed you to access the shifter from inside and rebuild the shifter and blah 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 blah, it looks like I'm actually above the floor plan. So I'm gonna have to rebuild this tunnel, come up a little bit higher. I did get a hold of MGW about their MT82 shifter that's used for the 2011 to 2014 Mustang that this transmission is out of. And they said that shifter actually comes back 12.5 inches, which is beyond the seat rail even. They also said in the same email, we do offer 2 other shorter shifter rails, which are 8.5 inches. Comes out kind of right here, which is perfectly in line with the front seat bucket. I know you can't really see it. The front seat bolts. I don't think that's going to work. But they also said they have a 6.5 inch, which comes out right there. The stock shifter in this truck came up right about here, but then it came up and then angled backwards because it was a truck shifter, not a sports car shifter. So that's 6.5 inches. If I put a seat in here and sit in the seat, I think that'll be super comfortable while driving this truck. If not, I could probably get a hold of them and say, hey, you know, the 6.5 inch option didn't work. Can you send me the bracketry for the 8.5 inch? I'm sure they'd be good with it, even if I had to pay some more. This is a project of trial and error. So we're gonna make the tranny mount. I think I might actually lower the transmission a tiny little bit to see if I can maybe get the 4 degree or even 3 degree angle on the engine, just so that the pinion angle can be matched up to it and I don't have any weird driveline vibrations. I did just drop the transmission 1/2 inch. There's my -3 degrees. So if I set my pinion angle at +3 degrees, I shouldn't have any issues with driveline vibration. I am underneath the truck, and I want to show you guys something a little bit crazy, which blows my mind, because this transmission crossmember right here, this is in the factory placement of how Ford built this crossmember. This is a factory bolt thingy with the factory nut thingies, and the factory hole for this bolt, which is kicking around somewhere, is right here. I have modified this one. I think this crossmember actually went through 2 other engine swap trucks, which were both 5 liters, but both used 2 different transmissions. Now, onto this part where MT82 comes very close to actually lining up with this. It's almost centered on the mount, which is kind of hard to believe, because this is a transmission that didn't even belong, that wasn't even invented anywhere near the time that this truck was built. So we're gonna get to cutting some bracketry to build this 90 here for this transmission to sit squarely and true, and then we're gonna go work on the motor mounts. A little bit hard to show underneath the truck. What I did was I basically made a template out of the 3 bolt holes that were on the transmission, transferred them to a 2x4 section of just, I had a piece of scrap laying around, so I'm gonna cut this down, and then we're gonna go underneath the truck, and I'm gonna show you how well it fits. This is what it looks like for now. I will end up probably doing a brace from top to, like, bracing in between each bolt hole. I will make it smaller, I'll make it more sleek looking, but for rough mock-up, this is what this is gonna look like. So there it is. We got 1 bolt in place. The other 2 bolt holes line up almost perfectly. Like I said, I might have to do a little bit of, might have to open these holes up a little bit for a tiny bit of adjustment. I'm hoping I don't have to. And if we take the factory transmission mount and go up into place with it, it looks like I have enough room to put some sort of polyurethane spacer underneath the transmission and still keep my 3 degree driveline angle. Okay, so there you go. 3 bolts in place. I just opened up this center hole. That way there was a little bit of movement. These bolts aren't tight. The bottom ones, they're actually too long. But there's almost no movement in this bracket. Jack this up just a tiny bit and space it out exactly. I'm gonna space it until I have exactly 3 degrees on the engine angle. -3 on the engine plate. We have our clearances under the oil pan, back in here under the oil pan. I'm just using some nuts and some spacers, which are about 1/2 inch. I got the exhaust manifolds and turbos out of the way, but what I'm trying to do is figure out placement for these motor mounts now that I have everything where I want it. So this is my plan for here. I think I might actually shorten these tabs up, get this in further, and then I want to have this bar underneath this lip of this frame rail, and I want to also have this bar. I want to kind of triangulate them into this section of frame. My original plan was to actually have this tie into here and this tie into here. But because I was able to get the motor so far back, I didn't plan that. I did, but I didn't think it would actually sit as far back as I wanted it to. And because the oil filter housing is right here, that's not going to work. So I have to come backwards, and well, where the original motor mount bolt holes were, it just, nothing lines up there. On this side, the motor mount plate is actually right here. So on this side, it will sit on here and tie into here. That's what I'm going to work on right now. So we're going to get to work. I had to trim these tabs up because they were too long. I couldn't even get the frame sections of the motor mounts into the frame, in between the frame and the motor. So I shortened them up. There's still plenty of clearance between the bushing and the tab. So I'm gonna get these trimmed up a little bit just so that I can get everything kind of in place. I think we're going to start with the driver's side because I have more room on the driver's side over here. There you have it. I got these trimmed up. They fit nicer. I can access all three of the bolts. And this piece, I'm going to have to Z and bring it underneath the lip here. Okay, so there you guys have it. First few bends in this top piece. I just have to bring, like I said, the bottom piece down into here. Not sure what kind of angle that's going to have to be on, but these angles were 22.5 degrees each. This is holding itself into place. It's good. I think it'll work. What I'll probably end up doing is tying this to the frame rail on top also, just to give it some more structural rigidity. Being above the frame rail, I didn't like how boxy it looked, so I'm going to try and sleek it down and tie it together all at the same time. But I'm going to get this bottom piece bent up and show you guys how that fits too. Okay guys, so this bottom corner was actually a bit more of a trial and error kind of thing. That's the amount of notches I took out of this. What I'm going to do is measure from the face of the mount plate on the block to the inside edge of the frame rail where this is going to weld in so that it's nice and snug. And then I'll just square this up to the bottom piece and make a measurement off of there. Okay guys, so I got the driver's side motor mount bent up, tack welded, and put into place. So this is what it's going to look like. Like I said, I'm going to finish the top onto like a nice smooth transition onto the top of the frame rail, and I'll also do the same thing on the bottom just to make it look nice. It's going to be strong enough. I'm going to clean up these gaps on the frame rail before I actually final weld this thing into place. This is the driver's side motor mount. I don't think you guys need to see the passenger side motor mount being built, but I will show you the passenger side motor mount when it's done. It's going to be the same idea, but maybe not as crazy as what that looks like now that I'm looking at it from the front. Anyways, If you don't remember where these motor mounts started out, check out this video and you can see what they started as. And I ended up getting this motor mount final welded along this edge. I do have to clean up all the welds. Again, I'm still only using MIG. I don't have a wire brush. Like I said, I am going to have to clean these up and pull the motor back over towards the driver's side, just the slightest little bit. I just got to smooth them out. I did want to show you guys what this driver's side mount looks like. This piece here is going to give me the nice clearance for the steering shaft. I'm going to build the passenger side motor mount and show you guys what it looks like afterwards. Oh, just a quick update. This is what I wanted both mounts to look like. It's actually standing straight up here and tied into this upper control arm frame bracket. But it didn't work out on the passenger or driver side, obviously. So this is how it's going to work on the passenger side. I'm happy though that it's actually working out on this side, because this is going to be the torque loaded side of the motor. So there's going to be more rigidity on this side, not allowing any flex in the mounts. I just have this as a spacer plate right now because I don't think I've mentioned it, but the company that makes this cross member actually reached out to me in an email after I had asked about some trimming on the front cross member, and they said, hey, I don't think your upper control arm mounts are spaced out far enough. I said, oh really? Can you send me some measurements? And the measurements from these upper brackets that I have in the holes is actually about 2 inches too narrow compared to what they're supposed to be. I don't know if that was a math thing that I fucked up on, but what I do actually have to do is cut the brackets off, and what I'm going to do is space each of these out an inch. Downfall is that they're not even tack welded into place anymore. They're fully welded into place, so it's going to be a lot of cleaning, a lot of grinding and whatnot. So because of that, I don't actually want to put this into place yet. I don't want to weld it into place. That's just to give you guys an idea what these mounts are going to look like. They're going to be much cleaner and everything by the time I'm done. Obviously everything's going to be painted, primed, all of that fun stuff. This whole frame is going to be cleaned up. I think I might actually still pull the body off to box the entire frame. So I think I may pull the cab off, clean the entire frame, maybe send it for sandblasting. I don't know yet. We'll see how everything turns out. So that's where we're at. We do have motor mounts in place. The transmission mount and cross member are in place. Once I get this all figured out, which will hopefully be soon, this motor will just be able to sit on its own. Just remember, get out there, build shit.